Hello, Lovelace, and welcome to today's wider curriculum lesson, where we're continuing our work on maps and map reading. Two learning objectives for us today. First one is, can I use 4 and 6 figure grid references? And can I recognize OS map symbols? Okay, so if you remember last time, we looked at 4 figure grid references, and I know a lot of you had no problem at all with that. So we're going to crank it up a little bit. We're going to make it a little bit more tricky today. And then the second one is recognize OS map symbols. Now, can we remember what OS stood for? Yeah, it's Ordnance Survey, and that's the mapping company that creates a lot of the maps we use here in the UK. Okay, so there are 2 LOs for today. Well, first of all, let's remind ourselves of last time and just refresh our memories as regards 4-figure grid references. These were your questions. So we're looking for the 4-figure grid reference of each of these 6 locations on the map. So here are our answers. The bridge is in that square there. We can see the symbol here. And so that's 1137. Just a reminder, we go along the corridor. So we go along the easting first. So we're in box 11, and then we go up to 37. So where those two meet, 1137 is where the bridge is. Okay. The hospital is just next door in 1237. We can see the letter H is the symbol for the hospital. The lighthouse is down here, and that's in square 934. So 0934 will be its 4-figure grid reference. The ship, well, there's 2 of them. We've got one down here at 1035, and then one up here at 839, or 0839, I apologize. Okay, so there are the 2 ships. Coal mine, again, there's 2 coal mines. There's one just here at 1036, and one down here at 1334. And finally, where are the dolphins? They're here and here. So we've got one at 0835, and we've got one at 1234. Well done if you got all of those. The second one asks what can be found in the following grids. So we'll find the grids, we'll find the squares, and then we'll see what we can find inside those squares. So A is 1139, which is there. 1139, SCH, so we've got the school. So there's a school in there. 1140 for B is just above it, and that's where the shark is. Okay, so we've got a shark in 1140. 1236 is down here, and in there is a house, and there's also part of the river. I think house is probably the most obvious one, but if you put river, you also get the mark. So 2 symbols there, river and house. Okay, so that was 1236. 1238, the main symbol there is the church, but there's also a house in there, and there's also a road. Okay. E is 1334, and that's double up, so it's down in this corner again. So we've used this square already, and we can see that there's a mountain, and we can also see that there's the coal mine. So 2 possible answers there. And 0838, here we've got the tree symbol, which means there's some trees there, and a house and a road. Okay, so any of those 3 options would get you the mark for that one. Okay, so that's using 4-figure grid references. And this is just a quick reminder as to how we found them. We always start with the eastings. We always go along the corridor before we go up the stairs. So eastings first, then the northing. Okay, so remind me, what's the 4-figure grid reference of the red spot? Give you a second to think. Yeah, 1945. So it's 19 on the easting and 45 on the northing. The green one? Well done, 1644. Good. And one more, the blue. Yeah, 1743. Okay, so just a reminder there of 4-figure grid references. Now, to create a 6-figure grid reference, we simply need to be more precise. It's more exact. So this is going to tell us exactly within the square where something is located. Okay, so it's a lot more accurate. We still start with the east thing. So we're still going to go along the corridor and we're still going to go up the stairs second. Okay, none of that's changed. And we're still going to use the 4-figure grid reference that we've learnt already. Okay, so here we've got a much smaller spot. So we can be more precise and say exactly where within this square it is. Okay, now we can see that it's inside the 1643 box. It's in that square. But exactly where? That's where the 6-figure reference comes in. It helps us be more precise. Okay, so let's just zoom in. There it is. So it's in the 1643. Now, the way we do it is we imagine. We don't need to draw these lines. We're just going to imagine that the box is split into 10 columns and 10 rows. Okay, so imagine that the line is broken down into 10 little individual sections. So 0 will be actually on the line, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 will be in the middle, which is why I've done it in red. It's right slap bang in the middle of the square. 6, 7, 8, 9, and then one more would take us into 17. Okay, so this is just imaginary markers. So in your head, you would sort of picture where 5 was in the middle, and then sort of guesstimate, make a sensible estimate as regards where you think the mark is. Okay, we still use the 4-figure grid reference to start with. So that tells us which square we're in, and then we create these 2 extra numbers to say exactly where. So for our yellow spot here, we're still 1643, but we're going to add 2 extra numbers, one after the 16 and one after the 43. So let's start with the 16 first of all. We know it's 16, but 16 what? From the center of the spot, if I come down, it's to the 3, okay? So it's about 3 along. So 16, 3. We can put a 3 there in our 6-figure grid reference because it's in line with the 3. The center of the spot is in line with the 3. Okay, does that make sense? Good. Right, what about the northing? We know it's in 43, but 43 what? 43 1, 43 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Again, if we imagine from the center, it's going to come out roughly at 3. Okay, so again, our missing number is 3 again, by coincidence. Now, this is very much an approximation. Now, obviously, if you had put 16, 7, then you would have been way, way off. So that would have been wrong. But we totally accept there's a little bit of wiggle room here. So if you'd said that it was at 16.2, and that is sort of touching it, then you probably get away with it because it is an estimate. It is an estimate, but a sensible one. Be as precise as you can be. Right. So going back to our homework map, or our challenge map from last time, I should say. So 6-figure references for the following things, and we will allow a little bit of wiggle room, as I've said. We know that there is an element of sort of estimation, guesswork here, but you've got to be quite precise. So, first of all, the bridge. Pause the video now and just scribble down neatly the 6-figure references for each of those 6 places. We've got the bridge, the hospital, the lighthouse, the church, the school, and the campsite. There's only one of each, so you don't need to be looking around for a second or a third. There's only one of each of those. Okay, so pause the video, have a go. 6-figure reference for each of those. Right, let's see if you agree with me. The bridge, well, it's in square 1137, but how far into 11? Well, I've gone 11.3. So I've gone So that's about 3. And then 37, it's just a little way up to 37.2. So 113,372. If you've gone sort of 11.2 or 11.4, I would give you that. And if you've gone 371 or 373, I'd give you that. So if you're one either side of those two numbers, then I think you've done a pretty good job. What about the hospital? What have you got for the hospital? Well, I've got 12.6. The hospital is here. So I've gone along to 12 and then I've gone just past the middle. So I've estimated that that's going to be 12.6. And then it's 37. It's about halfway there, isn't it? Halfway up. So I've gone 375. Okay, so 12.6 and 375 is my estimate. You might be 1 up or down on the 6 or 1 up or down on the 5. That's okay. What about the lighthouse? The lighthouse, I think, is 098. So 09, and it's most of the way up, so about 8. So 098 and then 349. And I've gone for the actual light of the lighthouse as my center point, but you might have used a different part, so your numbers might be slightly different to mine. But I've gone 098, 349. What about the church? Well, the church is up here, and I've aimed for the middle of the church with my estimate. So I've gone 12.6, just past the middle, so 12.6, and then 385 puts us in the middle of the square there. Okay, so I've gone 12.6, 385. You might be 1 up or down on the 6 and 1 up or down on the 5. That's okay. The school. Now the school is up here, and I think that's about 118, most of the way up through the 11th square, and 392. It's quite low down on the 39. And again, I've aimed roughly for the center of the symbol. And finally, the campsite. Well, the campsite is over here, and I think that is 084. It's not quite halfway, about there. So 084 and 363. Okay, so that's what I came up with. And again, if you're 1 or 2, let's say 1 up or down from 4 or 1 up or down from 3, I think you've done a pretty good job. Okay, so that's creating a 6-figure grid reference. Now, something else I said would be a learning objective for today was looking at OS map symbols. And here's just some of them. You can see there are lots, and there's quite a few more. I mean, there's some that we've not included on this page, but something to remember is if you are looking at a map, it will always come with a key. So you can always refer to that to decide what each symbol means. Now, some of them are quite obvious. I mean, you look here, symbol here, we've got a picture of a tent and a picture of a caravan. I think that's pretty obvious that's going to be a campsite or a caravan site. Similarly, we've got a symbol here, which is a picture of a castle. And surprise, surprise, that symbol means castle or fort. Okay, so some of them are quite obvious. Some of them not so much, because there's one here, and you could say it looks a little bit like a flower. And that's the symbol for a garden or arboretum. So a large public garden, a garden that you'd be able to visit. Okay. Strange shape here, that's the symbol for a bus or a coach station. So that's one you might just have to learn because it's not obvious. They've not drawn a picture of the bus to make life easy for you. So say, take a little scan through, take a moment to have a look through, pause the video if you like, and just have a look through, see which ones sort of stand out, are obvious, and see which ones are a little trickier. The church ones, or the places of worship, is an interesting one because there are 3 symbols for a place of worship. A simple cross is a place of worship. A cross with a square underneath it, that's a place of worship with a tower. That indicates the type of building you would see. And then a cross with a circle is a place of worship that's got a spire, a minaret, or a dome. Okay, so these are places of worship for different faiths, for different religions. Now, we've also got symbols that refer to the type of land you might be walking on. Here we've got non-coniferous trees, and there we've got coniferous trees. So these are trees that will lose their leaves during winter. These are leaves that are evergreen, so firs and those types of trees. So you actually find out what type of tree you might see. The symbol for marsh and reeds, so wetlands, symbol for orchards, and so on and so on and so on. Okay, so we're going to look at a few of these symbols. We don't have the time to look at all of them. Some of them you will simply have to check with the key on a map you might be using. But the remainder of today, we're going to look at some of these symbols, how they're used, and to see if you can find them on a map. Okay, so here we have, say, a simplified map. But even so, on it, there are 11 symbols, 11 markings or lines or shapes. Which ones can you spot? Which ones can you identify and tell me what they are? Can you get all 11? There's a challenge for you. So pause the video for a moment and see if you can find all 11 symbols. Right, well, here you go. The arrows are pointing to the 11, but let's see if we know what they are. First of all, we've got this thick yellow line here. Well, that's a minor road. So those would be little streets and avenues, the small roads that sort of link towns together. Okay. What about these brown blobs? Well, they're buildings. Hopefully quite obvious. Some little standalone ones. Some groups of buildings. Maybe a terrace or a large group of houses, or maybe even factories and large buildings of that type. But you can see that these brown areas are buildings. Hopefully we all got this one. That's a telephone. Now, not a mobile phone. This will be a public telephone. Okay, so if you needed to make a call and you didn't have your mobile with you, you'd know where to go on the map to find a public telephone. What about the red dotted line? Well, that's a footpath. So that indicates a public footpath where you could legally walk without trespassing on someone's land. Now, we've got two crosses here. Now, I'm sure you remember what the crosses stand for, but what about the difference between the two of them? Well, the first one is a place of worship. It's got no tower, dome, minaret, or spire, so there's nothing special about the building itself, but it is a place of worship. What about the cross with the square underneath? Well, that's a church with a tower. Okay. Now, the next one we have is this thick red line. Now, sometimes this might be pink on some versions of the OS map, so it's sort of a dark pink or a red. Similar colors, but not necessarily exactly the same. Because this is a main road. But as I've said, it can be a dark pink, just depending on which version of maps you look at. Okay, so that's a main road. PH. That's a public house. So a bar or an inn, a tavern, a pub. Okay, so public house. What about this blue spot? I'm sure most of you could guess at that one. That's a pond. The larger one would be a lake. What about the blue line? Blue line is a river. Well done if you got that. Finally, what about these brown lines? I've left this one till last because this is probably the trickiest. These are contour lines. Now, what these are telling you is the height of the land. So everything on this particular line is at the same height. So inside or outside of the line, either the land is climbing or falling away. Now, because there's a river here, I would guess that this side of the line would be higher and this side would be lower as it drops down into a little valley where the river is flowing. Okay, but anything on this particular line is of the same height. Okay, and we've got more contour lines here again, showing points of the same height. We'll look more at those in another lesson. Okay, but there's 11 symbols, far from all of them, but if you've spotted some, most, all of those, then well done. Now, this is an actual section from an Ordnance Survey map. And you can see it's a lot busy. It's a lot more cluttered with symbols. So it's a lot more tricky to actually understand. So when you do get, as I've said here, when you get a map of a town or a city, things can be a lot busier and harder to understand. It is cluttered. There's symbols on top of symbols on top of symbols, and it's quite tricky to understand. So let's see if we can. I'm going to ask you a few questions to see if you can spot some of the symbols we've talked about, some of the symbols we had a look in that key, see if you understand what's going on in this map. So the first one is, can you spot two public phones? Okay, so you've left your mobile at home, but you need to make a telephone call. Where would you go? Hopefully you're pointing at the screen now, and you should be pointing there and there. There are two public phones, remember? So let's say some of you might not have seen a telephone receiver that shape, but you might have to ask mums and dads about those. But yeah, that's the symbol for a telephone, for a public telephone. So you'd be able to make a call if you didn't have your mobile with you. Okay, next up, can you spot two museums? Now, going back to the key a few pages ago, can you remember what the symbol for a museum was? There's two in the town of Whitby. Can you spot them? There they are. M for museum, and then it's set in what looks a little bit like a Greek temple. It's a blue symbol, looks a bit like a Greek temple with an M in it to represent museum, and there's two of them. Well done if you spot those. Where's the Tourist Information Centre? So if you're visiting Whitby for the first time, you might want to know what things you should be going to see. So you need to find the tourist information. Any idea where that is? Do we know what the symbol is for information? Well, there it is. It's an I for information, and it's a white I on a blue background. So if you need some information about Whitby, that's the place to go. Now, where could I post a letter? So where in Whitby would you need to go if you wanted to post a letter? There you go. PO is post office. So you go to the post office, they'll be able to help you out posting your letter. Okay. And finally, how many schools can you find? Okay. Now, there might be a lot more off the map, but just in this section of the map, how many schools can you spot? Okay. Well, there's one there, SCH. There you go. So there's a school. There's one. Oh, there's another one. And it actually says the full word, school. So there's two. Okay. Is that all of them? No, because there's another one there. So there's three. Oh, and just a little bit south of that one, we've got another one. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that all of them? No, it's not. Hopefully you spotted there's one more just on the edge of the map down here. So 5 schools in that section of the map. Well done if you spotted all of those. Okay. Now, here's just a quick reminder, and you might want to flick back to this slide, this screen, the actual task itself, or maybe you're okay and you can remember some of the main symbols. Okay, but here is a quick reminder saying you can pause or you can go back to this slide anytime you like. Because here is your task. We're combining our 2 LOs for today, our ability to use the symbols and our ability to use 6-figure grid references. I've got 5 questions for you. The first one is, what symbol can be found in the grid square 7134? Okay, so that one is just a 4-figure reference. We just need to find the square, and then I'd like you to tell me what the symbol is in that square. Question 2, what symbol can be found at 692337? So that's quite a precise, that's a 6-figure reference. And you find what symbol is at 692337 and tell me what the symbol is. 3, what symbol can be found at 681318? Again, find that position on the map and then tell me what the symbol is that I've located. And then the final 2 is actually you giving me 6-figure references. First one is a 6-figure grid reference for the bus or coach station. Okay. And the second one is the 6-figure grid reference for the battlefield. Okay, so 5 questions, 4 of them requiring 6-figure grid reference knowledge, all of them requiring some knowledge of the OS symbols. Okay, good luck with those, guys. If you're really struggling as to what the symbols are, maybe draw the symbol as your answer. And then go back through the video to research what it actually is. Okay, well, good luck with that. As always, take care of yourself, look after those around you, and I will see you very soon.